And we're continuing into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation and getting into this, what is splashed across the front pages of almost every daily today. Unleashed, a new African statesman, a new Pan-Africanist now being presented to the continent, essentially, in terms of who can do what. And we're going to be having that conversation this hour. But before I let you know who our guests are going to be, Siti, tell us about university education. What do we do? Where do we go? How do we approach?
You know, in this country, the one thing that citizens agree on is the focus and the attention we give to the education of our children. Mm-hmm. And Kenyan parents will leave no stone unturned to ensure that their children actually get to study. But along the way, they often come across hurdles. Now, you want your child to study. What do you do?
Yeah.
You want your child to study abroad. How do you even begin? Where do you go? Who do you trust? Well, I think the answer to that is provided by one institution that has made it their time and bother to ensure that they understand studying abroad and all the wherefores around it. And they are going to be here in Kenya on the 31st of this month. Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's the Study Abroad World Fair that takes place on the 31st of August. Universities from the UK, the US, Spain, I beg your pardon, Grenada, Cyprus, Ireland, New Zealand will be in Nairobi at the Gallant Mall from 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. And all the questions, imagine every single question that you've ever had about the possibilities of university education abroad can be answered. You can apply for admission and get it on the spot. You can get information about scholarships that are available. You can get information about housing options. You can also get information about visa options because there'll be visa officers on board just to let you know what you need to do. It's your one-stop shop to all your answers concerning a university education. Let's do it this Saturday on the 31st from 11 to 4 p.m. at the Gallant Mall in Parklands and get all these I's dotted and the T's crossed with Cradle. Dial 0799 000 or you can log on to www.cradle.com and register. Invite only. You get the invite when you register. Okay, our guests for this hour are seated. Yes? And we're going to be looking at the road towards the AUC chairmanship and what it means for Raila Odinga, implications for Kenya and Africa. Political risk analyst Dismas Mokua is in the hot seat. And in the other hot seat is Professor Gitile Naituli, who is a governance analyst. Good to have you in the room this morning. Good morning, gentlemen, both of you.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Everybody's doing okay, I
Very
think. Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm in the minority at this point, but it's okay. We'll deal.
No, you're in the majority.
Well, in terms of...
About feeling okay, I guess. That's what you want to say.
I was going to play... I was playing the gender card at the moment.
Gender card, yes.
But, you know...
It's not in the Constitution.
But I will see. I will hold my own. We're like, not. Okay. Let's welcome you to the Situation Room in a true Situation Room style. CT has proverbs from Algeria.
Yes. Mm-hmm. The People's Republic of Algeria.
Yes.
Yes, a mishmash crossroad of cultures and civilizations dating back to the BC era. Phoenicians, Romans, Vandals, Byzantine, Greeks, Turks. All these people at some point or the other, before the French came along, had been part and parcel of Algeria. But even before all this were the Berbers, spelled Berber, but pronounced in English Berbers.
Berber.
Yeah, these are the unique natives of this particular country. But now they're a minority in Algeria. 70%, 75% are actually Arabs. The proverb for the day. A secret of two is soon a secret of nobody.
Let's start with you, Dismas. What do you think about that? What does it mean? How would you interpret that?
In my community, there's a proverb that you don't respond to a proverb when your senior is around. So I'll let Professor respond to that.
It could be that the prof wants to see if you're actually on the right path, according to his opinion.
No, but my culture doesn't allow me. If I do that, then I'll be required to slaughter
you will not be able
a few goats.
To drink amongst the elders should you go back.
When I go back, I will not be allowed to sit in a baraza.
Okay.
So your elders watch TV in the morning.
Oh, they are switched on. They've got Starlink.
In all ways. Wow. Okay. Okay, we'll allow you that. Prof, seeing as he's dodging, because we know what he's doing, he wants to see what you're going to say and then pick up off on that. So what would your interpretation of the proverb
The
be?
secret of two is not a secret.
Yes.
That's why Jesus was very good at telling people that what I've done to you, don't tell anyone else, because he intended them to broadcast it. He intended them to tell everybody.
Well said.
You know, they normally say that a secret of two is only valid if one party is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, then it's a
Well, our
secret.
lived experience, as we were saying in the previous hour, whenever someone is told something in confidence, he looks for his 10 best friends and swears them to secrecy.
Exactly.
And they in turn look for their 10 best friends and also swear them to secrecy.
Jesus
You
knew
know,
that
they,
very
yeah,
well.
they normally say between you and I.
Yes.
Actually, that's something we did, and I'm sure Ken would confirm this, that
When it was between two of you.
No. In communication advisory, or when you're training VIPs for media interviews, they normally make a mistake when they meet a journalist and they say, between you and I, this is the actual position. But when we go on air, I'm not going to repeat the same. And you see already the journalist has the story.
Yep.
It's the between you and I. That is
That's
where the story is. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I guess we're kind of on the same page. One thing that is no secret in the country today, and maybe then at the shores of the continent, is that Raila, however you want to look at it, when we use the word unleashed, has been unleashed on the continent, as it were. It's carried everywhere today. Raila's show of power at State House yesterday. Raila unleashed. I am made for Africa. It goes on and on and on. And it seems as though it is at this moment then that the world then will get this information about who Raila is and what it is that he is going to be able to do. Let's just get overview in terms of sentiment about what is currently going on. I mean, we saw the launch of the bid, which was the official launch of the bid. Now go ye forth and conquer the continent is essentially what happened at State House yesterday. Let's start with you, Prof. Give your overall sentiments about this particular thing, and let's see what it then would mean for Kenya and Africa.
Yes, after we lost to Chand in the last time around, Mohammed lost to Mohammed Ifaki, the EU appropriately changed the rules, and they say in the regions we rob the attorney. So there's the attorney for East Africa. And the response from East African member states was good. When we called them to come and support us, they showed up to support us. So the headlines are correct. We have unleashed Raila on the continent. and Raila is a Pan-Africanist. He has cut his profile appropriately for that job. And I think if we were to compare him with the other three candidates, then he is a front runner, as it were. So is thoroughly qualified for the position, and I think if we market him carefully, carefully means that sometimes we need to avoid some bombastic. We over exaggerate certain things. We need to reduce that so that other Africans can. Being humble and seeking with humility possession sometimes is received better than over-exaggerating the situation. So we need to reduce the over-exaggeration, and I think Raila is quite capable of selling himself because, I mean, he's very well known, not just as a prime minister, but as a crusader for democracy on the continent.
Prof, you said something that has interested me. You said the Africa Union changed the rules after Mohamed Faki versus Amina. Were these rules in paper? And then secondly, you said it's East Africa community time. Was it this rule, was it in paper? Or secondly, is it a gentleman kind of agreement? And is it based on regions or based on language?
Sort of rotating chairman.
Actually, it is region. It's not language. Because if you say, East Africa includes Mozambique, which in our colonial past is supposed to be what they call, what is that? There's Francophone, Anglophone,
Yes.
Lusophone.
yes. So it's not based on language. It's actually region. They split Africa into 4 regions.
Okay.
The north, the south, the east, and the west. And so there is also another rule there, which I think they seem to have removed also, that a man, if this time was a man, then the next time is a woman.
Okay.
So they removed that one also, meaning that giving Raila really a very nice space to compete.
It was easy to remove that because it wasn't on paper. I think this was basically a gentleman agreement as opposed to put in their...
The agenda was on paper.
Was on paper.
Yeah, but the other one, the region one,
was
is not on paper.
Okay.
So there is an understanding from what you're saying that it should rotate, kind of like in Nigeria, because of the whole thing. There's an understanding that the presidency will go from north to south to north to south. We're expecting that the next president of Nigeria, for example, will come from the north. So there's an
even in Tanzania.
There's that kind of understanding.
There's an
unwritten rule.
Yes.
So
Muslim,
from the
Christian.
Right. So from the AU chairmanship position, now there is an understanding that it would go to East Africa.
Yes, there is.
Okay.
And it is, and they are all agreed on that. I mean, the African heads of state have agreed on that.
Okay. The African heads of state have agreed on that. That's interesting. Then why would it be that there seems to be then so
contest.
much? Yeah.
Why is it a
If
contest?
it's
The
an
contest
agreed
now is
upon-
for East Africa now.
No, not really.
No, it's for East Africa because in Djibouti, is Madagascar,
Mauritius.
Mauritius, or East Africa, and Kenya.
Or if they are classified in the east.
because Somalia was also in the race, but it's withdrawn in the wave of Kenya.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. That is all East Africa.
Mauritius, Madagascar, and
Djibouti.
Djibouti are all classified in the east.
They are East
In the
Africa.
east, yeah.
Oh, so that's why it's in the east.
Even Ethiopia.
Okay.
Even Ethiopia is in the East.
All right.
Understandable.
Dismas, I'd like to get your thoughts about, where this all is in terms of sentiment, about, being pushed forward. Prof said a very interesting thing here, so that we can push for this thing, but there doesn't need to be so much fanfare. It doesn't need to be so, over the top. Push for the thing. If you get it, fantastic, but use of state resources, doing all of this hullabaloo that we saw yesterday, making so much noise not necessary. No?
From a communication perspective or a marketing perspective, when you're launching a product, you don't do it in the cover of darkness. You invite the key stakeholders. And in my view, what happened yesterday at State House was a display. It was optical power for all and sundry to know that the East African community is behind Mr. Raila Odinga. So for me, I don't find anything wrong. I don't find any exaggeration, as our professor suggested. If I were the head of state and government in Kenya, I would have done the same. It's important to get your colleague heads of state to come and make those statements in public. That was the first observation. Then the second observation is that retired President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has not yet sent his message of goodwill, or he has not even indicated that he's supporting Mr. Raila Odinga. One would have expected that because he's peers with almost all the heads of state and government in Africa, he would actually offer his support. So his silence is very deafening. And then number 3, some of the names that come up to be part of Mr. Raila Odinga's strategy team, they do not inspire confidence. Because it's very clear, it must be very clear that Mr. Odinga is not running a campaign in Kenya, but he is running a continental campaign. So one would have expected that in his team, he's got subject matter experts from all over the region. That you have people from maybe West Africa, from South Africa, from Northern Africa. People can help him understand the different cultural dynamics. Like, for instance, if you want to approach the heads of state in North Africa, there's their way of doing things. They've got some sort of anthropology. If you want to do the same in South Africa, you need this kind of people. So, well, it's not late in the day. I'm hoping that he's going to reconstitute his team so that he can hit the high notes. If he assumes that he's running a normal campaign in Kenya, that your team is made up of people who may not have demonstrated capacity and competence in expected subjects, then the outcome will disappoint Kenya and the region.
I think he has the team. He has Obasanjo from Nigeria for West Africa.
I don't know that Obasanjo
and
represents
also-
the whole of West Africa, especially seeing as things happened in the way in which they have over the last few months.
No, the West African groups and ECOWAS. So Obasanjo, I think, is a big voice within the ECOWAS.
Well, again, we understand that.
Then in South Africa, he has Ramaphosa for the Santak region, because Ramaphosa has already said he will support him. But I mean, I agree with you and don't dispute what you are saying. So maybe in West Africa itself, not West Africa. I don't know which West Africa, because because it's you see, Southern Santak includes Angola, and now Cameroon is in ECOWAS.
Yes, it is.
But Santak includes Angola. So West Africa is covered, Southern Africa is covered, East Africa, we are here. So maybe Northern Africa, maybe Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco, that axis.
Yeah, but Professor, outside General Obasanjo and President Ramaphosa, I'm talking about the technical teams, the one who actually do the heavy lifting, the one who prepare the briefs, and then would probably confirm. The conversation is that General Obasanjo and President Tinubu enjoy a frosty relationship. Then a few days ago, President Obasanjo had a cup of tea with the First Lady. Again, there were conversations. So nobody's sure of the relationship between General Obasanjo and the President, and also the neighboring community. But I'm not worried about the big boys, for lack of a better word. I'm looking at the people who do the actual documents. Some people in that team, they create the impression that if they land at an airport, say in Nigeria, the first thing they'll probably do is take a picture and post it on social media that we are now landed at a particular place. But I'm looking at somebody, I mean, social scientists. Like for instance, there are many Kenyans. If they tell you, if you haven't met Ken for a while, then he says, tuongee kwa simu. It doesn't mean anything. So you need people who really understand the local dynamics to assist you craft and execute a winning strategy.
Okay.
I may be wrong, but I suspect I'm right because I've interacted with people from all these different countries, and the expectations are very brittle.
Okay. It's interesting how local politics can then now play out on a continental level, and maybe you can go into that. But I've seen an interesting comment, and somebody says, I think it's necessary for us to know what the map of Africa actually looks like. And I think that's very interesting because we thought that we know geographically where everything stands, right? North, south, east, and west. I think everybody needs to go back and look at your map. So that we can understand who we're talking about and who is where, because it's very, very important. And even when we have the geographical states of Africa, we still have barriers that are created by language and culture. Remember, Africa was divvied up by somebody who had no knowledge of what was going on.
Yeah, the Berlin Conference.
Okay? And that they cut across cultures which shared in huge landmass. Right? That's why you still have some of the things that you see in East Africa today where it's cut by a border, but people still share the same culture. And now why I say that is that in this whole AUC chairmanship, we cannot run away from the differences that language have posed in the areas of Francophone Africa and Anglophone Africa, because it is a big debate here that who will the other side support. So if you're in Senegal, you could be in ECOWAS, but you're still in Francophone Africa. And so which carries the day? If you're in Cote d'Ivoire, you are in ECOWAS, but you're in Francophone Africa. If you are in
Mozambique.
Exactly. If you're in Mozambique, yes, you're in Southern Africa, but you're in Lusophone Africa. So does language have a place to play? And I've heard that it does in this selection of the AUC chair, that folks are looking for who will represent them on a broader basis. And does it have anything to do with this? And should it be paid any attention to?
I think it should. It shouldn't be paid attention, I think. That is because, you see, when you are the chair of that commission is the implementing agency of the African Union. It is like what? You see, you have the African Union, then you have the executive commission to implement the decisions of the African Union. And therefore, for somebody holding that position, because that's the work, that is the horse, what is it called in language, my friend? The workhorse of the union.
Secretariat.
Yeah, the secretariat is the workhorse of the union. So you need to understand a lot of those dynamics. I agree with you, because without understanding those dynamics, it becomes complicated. And that's why I think you said something very important. The local issues would play undermine. For example, we've been much happier if we would have been neutral in the war going on between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Because you see, Muslims, for example, as a religion, is very strong brotherhood. It has a very strong brotherhood concept, very strong. We could have been a little bit more conscious about that. The Christianity is not so much. I think it's because we don't really believe in it in Africa. We just pretend. We are not like the Muslim. We don't live the religion here. I know that could surprise many, but that is actually the truth. I look at Meru, where I come from. You do something there. You go to court, you swear with the Bible to tell the truth, the whole truth, you put it down, you lie, you go home. When you go home, we take you to Nyorinchege, we take you to a pot, we give you a small stick, which everybody is working on. We tell you, put this one inside here, if you are telling the truth, and say that if I'm lying,
let it boil
myself and everyone related to me should go in this pot with this stick. You say, no, I lied. So you make yourself the judge, because that one is tied to you. That is inside you. So Christianity has never been inside us, but the other one is very strongly inside the people. So that means to become, if I was campaigning for Raila, like he said, you are a communication expert, I think. I'm beginning to grasp what you are saying here. Then I'll run delve into those things, and I'll try to see how do I massage some of those. Yes, some of the toes which we may have stepped on over time.
Okay. It has taken Kenya, really, by storm, this thing, and maybe a little bit of a storm, but still a storm, whereby suddenly now that is the conversation. Let's bring it local, this AUC chairmanship, okay? This is an individual who, for the longest time, has been in the opposition in terms of politics in the country, and has maybe, and has been an arch rival, arch enemy of those who have been in power. Because unfortunately, to date, he has not been. Suddenly, we see all this support rallied around him. And I know the conversations of, okay, is the opposition dead? Did we see all of these things happen so that the chairmanship could get a boost, But suddenly we see state resources, state attention, everybody paying attention to this thing and saying, okay, you know what? Here's an opportunity to put Kenya on the map. Is it an opportunity to put Kenya on the map, or is it an opportunity to take this person who has been insisting that you do 1, 2, 3 out of the picture?
Well, in my view, in as much as Mr. Odinga has not had state power, one can easily say or come to the conclusion that he's been one of the most powerful men in Kenya, with or without, state power, from the time he took over management of political parties like NDP. You recall at some stage you were told that Mr. Raila Odinga is probably the only man in Kenya who can declare a public holiday outside an official Kenya Gazette. So he's been a very powerful man. And in my view, any Kenyan who is looking for an international assignment should be supported by the state to the hilt. And the President of the Republic of Kenya has got a constitutional, moral, and economic responsibility to support anybody who is looking for an international assignment. And if you compare Kenya to other countries in, especially the Western Africa, there are very few Kenyans comparatively holding senior roles in these bodies like the UN, World Bank, IMF, even in the corporate world, for several reasons that are maybe. When we were brought up, you speak your mother tongue, Sheng, English, and Kiswahili. So majority of Kenya don't speak another language, say French or Germany, which can create opportunities. Maybe we need to look at our legal framework and ensure that outside the languages we speak, people can speak other languages, so we create opportunities for them. So if there's any Kenyan who is looking for an international assignment, I think they must be supported. And in as much as we say that we need to create opportunities in Kenya first, with globalization, you can pretty much work anywhere. So if Mr. Raila is interested in this opportunity, the fact that he's had a high-octane competition with all these leaders does not mean that then he takes President Ruto takes a back seat and tells him that you're on your own. But again, Raila has faced a lot of criticism that when Kenya needs you, now you are taking a walk. The political situation in Kenya demands that you be around. We want to have a conversation with you in 2027. But when you revisit the works of Adam Smith, he says human beings are supposed to be rational human beings, and they pursue their selfish interest. Mr. Odinga has wanted to be president from the time he was born. You've not given him the opportunity. Maybe his selfish interests have indicated, now go to the African Union, let him go. If there's a vacuum to be created in Kenya, you have many people. Kalonzo yesterday declared himself as the opposition leader. He must now demonstrate the killer instinct that he wants to become an opposition leader who can give President Ruto effective opposition, or rather a run in 2027. And also his exit is very good, because when you talk about ODM and Mr. Raila Odinga, understand their synonyms. So it's the glue holding ODM together. So right now there are people who are very excited that his exit from active ODM politics is actually going to make the D in ODM come to reality. That ODM now for the first time is going to be a democratic party. There are people who will have free, fair, credible elections, and then you'll have people coming up. So which is a good thing. So in my view, the people are saying, wait a minute, Mr. Odinga, this is when we need you. He's requested for your votes times above number. You've not given him the opportunity. Let him go elsewhere. President Museveni indicated yesterday that this thing is not about career progression. Mr. Raila Odinga has been a Pan-Africanist, and I've had the occasion of sitting, in his proximity. When he talks about Pan-Africanism, you can see the energy coming out of his face. You can see the emotion.
It's genuine.
And you can see that he's genuine.
Okay.
So as he turns 80, let him go and deliver on the African, the African agenda. Although, again, probability of him being a success under the circumstances is just 50%.
Well, let's talk about that when we come back from this break, because Prof is already smiling and CT has TP'd his nose, so he has thoughts. Okay, 26 minutes to 9 o'clock. Conversation continues right after this break. Don't go away.